Hey guys, it has been 7 weeks since the last podcast video posted. Apologies. I was waiting for the holidays to be over. Anyways, you are listening to Aurora's podcast. A Filipina's Journey to America. Episode 14. In this episode, I was trying to run away from Jack. If this is your first you listening to this story and you wanted to listen from the very beginning, look for my playlist titled My Journey to America podcast. Before we begin, I shall invite you to please support this channel by clicking the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get this podcast rolling. It was already midnight. I must have been sitting in the kitchen chair for the whole 4 hours. Jack took my car key and handed it over to his son and told him to never ever give the car key back to me no matter what. Jack then told me that he was afraid of me and that he does not want me to sleep in our bed. He went to our bedroom, closed the door, and vaulted it on. Like he's afraid that someone will open the door and do some harm to him. You see how he twisted my mind, making me think that I was the bad one. Well, this was his scheme because he had some plot making sure that I was going to go to jail myself. He had planted a scheme, he was going to frame me horribly. Keep on listening. How am I going to hurt him when he was the one who tried to screw me a day earlier? Jack's son went walking slowly to his bed carrying my car key. I went to the front living room curling up again on the couch, another horrifying night for me. I had to be vigilant again. Who knows what could Jack do if I let myself sleep that night? Early morning came. Jack was preparing his own lunches for work. I used to do it for him, but this time I wasn't because I am still scared to move around the house not knowing what can happen. He took a shower, dressed up, and took off. I was looking at the clock, it was only 5:30 a.m. His job is a 1-hour drive away and he is late. He has to be there by 6 a.m. I didn't move or do anything because I had this feeling that Jack will come back and check up on me, and I was right. Just 15 minutes later, Jack came back and checks up on me if I was still on the couch. I was pretending that I was sleeping. He then left and took off. I waited for another 30 minutes before I could do anything, making sure that Jack will not be coming back. And I waited another 15 minutes for clearing. Well, it has been 45 minutes since Jack left. It's 6:15 a.m. and still dark. I was so sure that Jack was already at work at this time. I went to Jack's son's room, knocked on the door, and told him that it was me. He told me to get in, of which I did. He got up and sat down in the corner. Jack's son's was my angel. He said that if I was not going to leave his dad, things could get worse. He told me that this was just the beginning and that Jack would make my life living in hell just like he did with his mother, Jack's ex-wife. Jack's son told me everything that Jack did to his ex-wife. Unbelievable story. It was worse than mine. Jack apparently got locked up many times for trying to shoot his ex-wife 3 times and broke her nose many times. Jack deprived her of not having her own car, for not letting her go to work, for forcing her to go to church. She was married to Jack for 16 years and according to Jack's son, due to Jack was very abusive to his mom mentally and physically, this resulted in his mom suffering a post-traumatic stress disorder. Jack's son handed me the car key and told me to just leave his dad. Because if I don't, just like he said that this is just the beginning and that Jack would make my life living in hell. I then rushed outside, turned the engine on my car and start to drive away and look for help. After driving 3/4 miles away, I saw a house with lights on. I then stopped my car without turning the headlights off. I went and knocked the door. I heard the caulking. Who is it? The elderly man inside of the house said. I told him who I was and that I wanted him to call 911 for me. The elderly man goes, Is someone chasing you? You better turn off the headlights of your car and come back in quickly." The elderly man then called 911 for me. When he finished talking on the phone, he said that the police should arrive shortly. He asked me if I have some family that I could contact to help me out. I told him that my husband's brother Joe could help me out. So, I called Jack's brother Joe, thinking that he could help me since he was very nice to me always. Well, bad choices again. A cop's car and Joe arrived at the same time. The young sergeant came in first, and before he could even begin to ask me question, Joe took over and told the young sergeant to just turn around. Because he will handle this, because I was his sister-in-law and this was just minor family issue. I told the young sergeant that I wanted to talk to him, not Joe, but Joe insisted. The young sergeant left. Darn me, I shouldn't have contacted stupid Joe. Now Joe told me to drive my car back home. So off I went and Joe followed. When we arrived in our driveway, Joe directed me to get few of my clothes for he was going to take me home to his house. I agreed since I would be safer in his house over his brother Jack. I went inside, packed a few of my clothes, grabbed my airline ticket on the bottom of the shoe rack. Remember, I hid the ticket from Jack the night before he confiscated all of my identification documents. It was already 7:30 a.m. I was supposed to be at the airport at 6 a.m., but I can't leave now. My cousin who purchased the ticket. I'm sure at this time she was waiting and expecting me at the arrival airport. She has no idea that I won't be there. So I had checked everything what I could bring with me before leaving the hell house. I could not think of anything other than my identification documents, but Jack must have brought it with him to his work because I couldn't find it anywhere around the house, being the house was so small. My last resort was maybe Jack hid my documents underneath the sheet covered of my trunk, you know where you will find your spare tire. Joe was telling me to hurry up by now. I told him to give me just a few seconds. I just needed to check up on something at the back of my trunk. Viola. Behold, and what I've found. A dozen of loaded of and hunting guns. That is all for the day. Watch out for the next episode. You do not want to miss this. Joe took me to his house as a prisoner. A 17-year-old girl was there to watch every move that I make. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode. Bye.